Now that it's done, let's look forward. Let's keep Iran's feet to the fire. Let's make sure that they keep all their obligations under the nuclear deal. That's the first thing. Second thing, let's block Iran's other aggression in the region, because they're doing everything. They're trying to encircle Israel with a noose of death.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on CNN warning that while this nuclear agreement with Iran is final, that nation's aggression remains a real problem. This is a high-ranking Iranian official spoke with their state-run media, warning that all American military bases in the Mideast are now in range of Iranian missiles. This official also saying Iran will continue to build ballistic missiles despite an international ban on their construction. For more, let's go to Newsmax Washington, where retired Army Colonel Patrick Murray joins us. Patrick is the author of the book, Government is the Problem. Colonel, I got to tell you, our government may be a problem for Benjamin Netanyahu, but the Iranian government is a problem to us both. Your take on what the Prime Minister had to say and then what the Iranian military official had to say.
Well, JD, thanks for having me back on. Listen, we're witnessing a fundamental shift of power in the Middle East to this Russian-Iranian nexus in support of Syria, but also it does not bode well for Israel. It does not bode well for our national interest either. There was a ballistic missile embargo on Iran that the Obama administration gave away in this Iranian deal. And as well as the conventional weapons ban, they're getting a windfall of about $110 billion, which is going to go into the coffers of Hamas and Hezbollah. So this is a huge problem for Israel, and that's what Prime Minister Netanyahu was referring to.
Colonel, Iran continues to grow its diplomatic ties, now an alliance among Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, and Russia. Is it fair to say we're seeing a major realignment in the region?
Without question, JD, and the whole hook on this is support of the Syrian Assad regime. Russia is dramatically building up their forces. They're running air sorties, and they're building up their ground forces just outside of, in Syria, just outside of Aleppo, where I think they're going to initiate some substantial ground operations. And by the way, those happen to be the anti-Syrian rebels that we support. So listen, I used to be an operations officer, and coordinating battle space in the air is difficult enough with just your own armed forces. We're looking at Turkish air, U.S. air, Russian air, Israeli air, Syrian air, and other NATO countries in there as well. And this is just an international incident waiting to happen.
Crowded skies can lead to real problems among those different air forces. Colonel, the Prime Minister made a strong case that Iran remains a tremendous danger to both Israel and the United States. But in your opinion, with about a minute left, do you believe there is a strong possibility that Israel would go to war with Iran despite the nuclear deal, despite what this administration has done?
Well, I think there's a possibility that Israel will find it in their national interest to conduct some preemptive strikes on some Iranian nuclear infrastructure, because we've seen from this agreement that that Obama cut with Iran that this puts them on a glide path to a nuclear weapon. Listen to what your enemy says. That's one thing I learned in the military. And what is Iran saying? Death to Israel, death to America, and Israel's going to be wiped off the map, they said, in 20 years. The issue is that Russia is providing Iran with some very high-tech anti-air weapons, S-300s, and I think that the window for Iran or for Israel to do anything is closing rapidly.
And we will have to watch that.
System gets in.
We will watch that, as you pointed out. Retired Army Colonel Patrick Murray, author of Government is the Problem. Sir, you have our thanks. Up next, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, our political panel. Two of the politicians they'll be discussing when we continue.